Well, I'm joined now from Tel Aviv by Mark Regev, who's a senior advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Good evening to you. First of all, I wonder if you can tell me if there is a current humanitarian pause ongoing in Gaza tonight.
I think we do them more during the day because the idea is to facilitate the exit of people who want to leave combat zones and to bring in aid. So it's not so common to do them at night.
So what time was it in effect today, then?
It was there for a couple of hours. What we had in Gaza City, there's people who wanted to leave, but Hamas had prevented them from leaving. And we opened up a humanitarian corridor, and people in their tens of thousands left. It's our understanding that Hamas had prevented them from leaving up until now. And the fact that Hamas is underground and can't come out and rain its terror on the local population has allowed people who wanted to leave to exit, and that's a good thing. Ultimately, we don't want to see civilians in a combat zone, and quite rightly, they want to leave as well. So it's good that we're facilitating their exit. We don't want to see Gaza's civilians caught up in the crossfire between us and the terrorists.
Can you tell me specifically what times the humanitarian pause was in effect today? From what time?
I don't know. You'll have to ask that sort of technical question. You need to ask the IDF. I know that today I heard some 50,000 Gazans from the area of Gaza City did move out.
From what we understand, and our reporters on the ground, is that there was still heavy fighting at the time that humanitarian pause was in effect.
We know there was an example the day before yesterday of Hamas shooting at people trying to leave. And that just shows where Hamas is. We're calling on people to move out of a combat zone, not to be in harm's way. And Hamas wants to, by force, keep them in a combat zone so they're human shields for Hamas's terror machine. Obviously, it's best if they leave. We don't want to see them caught up in the crossfire.
But can you assure me that there was no fire from Israel towards Gaza during the humanitarian pause that you say was carried out today?
You have to understand a humanitarian cause in a specific area at a specific time. And so obviously we don't shoot on people who are trying to get out. But if in another neighborhood, away from where the corridor was, there's Hamas activity, there's no ceasefire. Let me be clear, there's no general ceasefire. We will continue this operation until we have destroyed Hamas's military machine. The idea of a humanitarian pause is in a specific place for a specific time to help the civilian population who are not the target of our operation. On the contrary, we want to see them move out of harm's way.
So you said a specific place and a specific time. Can you elaborate and tell me what the specific place was and the specific time?
Correct. There's a major highway that leads out of the city of Gaza, and we were facilitating the exit of people.
But that doesn't mean that there weren't attacks elsewhere, is what you're saying?
100%, exactly what I'm saying. We want to keep the pressure on Hamas. We want to keep hitting its military machine. Ultimately, our goal is to destroy Hamas's military infrastructure. At the same time, in parallel, do everything we can to safeguard the civilian population. And we believe it's possible to do both at the same time.
So the White House has said that they want the humanitarian pauses in northern Gaza to allow people to flee, and you can categorically say tonight that that is happening.
It's not just happening, it's happened on numerous occasions, and we intend to continue doing so. We've done numerous humanitarian pauses in the past, we'll do so in the future. We don't see the civilian population as the target of our military operation.
So just talk us through exactly what you have agreed with America, because there is some talk tonight that America's disappointed in the implementation of the humanitarian pause. What exactly has been agreed?
So we agree on the goal of the operation, and the goal of the operation is the end of Hamas in Gaza, the destruction of its military infrastructure and the elimination of its political control over the Gaza Strip. That is the goal. And a ceasefire, a general ceasefire, would only give Hamas time to rest, to rearm, and to attack us again. We've got to keep the pressure up on Hamas. I'd remind you that just yesterday, the spokesman of Hamas said they're not interested in a ceasefire. They want permanent war. Their words, not ours. And just a few days ago, the deputy head of Hamas said that they want to repeat the terrible massacre that they did on October 7th. They said they'd do it again and again and again. And let's be clear, what they did on October 7th, they butchered, they massacred, they raped, they burned people alive. Terrible manifestations of gruesome violence. going into houses and shooting babies in their cots, machine gunning the young people attending the open-air musical festival. They say they want to do it all again. We have to stop them.
The US says tonight that they want the pauses to continue as long as they're needed. Are you in agreement with that? And how long do you think that might be?
Well, as long as the operation requires, but we're in agreement with that. There's no, we understand the need why we keep the pressure up on Hamas. There's a parallel need to do what we can to help the civilian population.
Just want to talk about the development tonight with Islamic Jihad releasing videos of 2 Israeli hostages. Do you see that as a positive and certainly as proof of life?
Yes, you're right. I mean, the fact that we had a sign of life of 2 people, that's a good thing. But let's look at what we saw. We saw 2 people, a 13-year-old boy and a 77-year-old grandmother. And what people take 13-year-old children and 77-year-old grandmothers as hostages? I mean, it just shows what we're up against. Who are these terrorists in Gaza? They really are despicable. And they have to be condemned for their behavior. And more so, I think the world has to understand what we're up against, because the people who would kidnap children and grandmothers, they have no compulsions, no qualms whatsoever about being barbaric, about killing innocent people, not just innocent Israelis, but sacrificing their own people.
I just want to ask you quickly, because we are running out of time, what about the families of the hostages who are calling for a ceasefire, certainly until their loved ones are freed? Can you understand their call for a ceasefire?
First of all, you have different messages coming from the families of hostages. Some people say that, some people say exactly the opposite. But we believe sincerely that the best way to get hostages out is to beef up the pressure on Hamas. Hamas, their barbarism is clear, and they're not going to suddenly release hostages because they've become a humanitarian organization. That's an irrational belief. The only way we're going to get our people out is by keeping the pressure up, making Hamas understand that it has no choice but to release hostages.
Mark Regev, thank you very much for speaking to us. Mark Regev, their advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.